we've got Alan and I have an urgent care franchise that we're working on that will maybe have an opportunity to get a listing on. It's a legitimate deal. They're sick, and that's the reason they're selling. I mean, literally disabled, maybe. They're getting a valuation. We're waiting for the valuation. The books are in order. Everything looks really slick, actually, to this point. And however, neither Alan and I have sold a franchise or a urgent care. Does anyone have any experience with those?
I don't have any experience with urgent care businesses, but there is an absolute huge demand. You're not going to find any shortage of buyers. Which state is the urgent care located in?
Washington.
In Washington, okay.
It's quite productive. It's they've got 11 employees. I don't know what it's going to come in at. It's doing about what they say, Alan, should be doing about 1.9.
Yeah, maybe north of there a little bit, but we haven't seen anything yet.
So we don't know what it's worth. But you're right, John. Our instincts tell us that there are a lot of buyers for that. Where do you go for the buyers? You're typically.
I have an active buyer, but he's looking in Texas and Florida. But I can mention to him to see if they're interested in Washington State and let you know.
Okay.
It's in Seattle, pretty close to the airport, which might make it easy if he wants to come and visit. They have about 11 employees, I think, 2 docks, and they also don't own their real estate. They're in a little strip center in a nice part of town.
Yeah, they have 10 years left on their lease, 9 years, actually.
And then will the physicians there be staying?
That's my understanding. Yes. It's owned by 3 people. One is a physician, but he's not active in the business.
So he's basically hanging his license there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I think it's AFC. They need $500,000 to show that someone has a capability of cash flowing something. Plus, they've got a lot of hoops to jump through. I read the franchise agreement. There are a few hoops. The AFC franchise has to sign off, of course, and they have the first right of refusal. There's training involved. People have to get trained. The new buyers have to get trained. Have to go through the franchise training. The disability might kick in on the transfer. I told her to check with her attorney to see if that kicks in, because that would save her some money, about $15,000, because then they could do the transfer without a new fee. I think it's a $30,000 franchise fee to get into the franchise, and that might be waived if she's disabled.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of little quirks and gyrations with this that are interesting, but I think we'll get the listing. I think it's probably 90% that we'll get the listing if we want it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, in terms of marketing, I mean, you would market that. I would market that through BizBuySell, BizBen, probably Axial, and you could look to see if any private equity groups are doing any kind of bolt-ons or roll-ups. So there's a few different.
Did you call that bolt-ons?
Yeah, bolt-on or add-on.
I've heard the roll-up
like they already
term.
have a platform.
Okay. Yeah. All righty. How do you find those equity firms like that that might be doing a roll-up in the urgent care field?
PE Info. Private equity info, so peinfo.com.
Would you write that down? I don't have to, Alan. Alan's good at writing things down.
Yeah, I got it.
So PE Info is a membership benefit that comes from M&A Source.
Okay.
But you can also subscribe to it. But I believe it's PE. I have it bookmarked. I haven't gone, I haven't put it in as a URL recently, but I believe it's peinfo.com.
And Tanya, you mentioned BizBuySell, BizBen or BEND?
BizBen, BEN, Bizben.
And
It
then
used
what
to
were
be
the
California only businesses, and then he opened it up to the rest of the country.
and then after that you said something like bolt-on or add-on. Are those platforms?
No, no, they're
No, so if a
roll-ups.
private equity, yeah, if a private equity firm already has a platform company in the healthcare space, they might be acquiring smaller businesses that
Yeah.
are ancillary to that, which they refer to as bolt-ons. It's not a platform; they already have the platform, but it's a bolt-on. It's an add-on to that
Yeah,
platform.
it's happened in many industries. One, as an example, if you go out and try to get your house insulated, you'll find that about the same firm owns all the house insulators in the nation. That happened several years ago. It may have changed since I was in the construction business. That was another business, John. I was also in the construction business.
You like to keep yourself busy, huh, Dick?
Yeah, yeah. As you can see, I am a late starter. But anyway.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
So Tanya, what was the third business you mentioned? There was BizBuy and BizBen, and there was the third one you mentioned.
Axial, Axial, Axial.
One of the things I
So
learned at that
Axial is a. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alan.
I was just going to say, one of the things I learned at that generational equity thing is, you know, they have a way of registering buyers. They have 34,000 buyers in their database, but they found that a lot of these people, like Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, will come in and they'll buy smaller companies. If they've got a certain amount of money they want to put into businesses, they don't buy one business. They buy a number of smaller businesses. So we may have some channels for selling businesses that we wouldn't really think of, like the big boys. They may not need to be big deals for them to be interested. Like some of these are $300,000 companies, and they're buying not necessarily the business, but they're buying the people that they think will do well in the business once they have resources to work with. So a lot of the business brokerage, in fact, they have something called partial sale, which I'd never heard of before. I mean, I kind of understand it, but part of the idea would be sell part of your business, get some money in, let the people that are buying your business bring a lot more resources in, and then you grow the business and you still own 49 or 51% or whatever, and then have another payday later. In the meantime, get, $100, $200, $300,000 salary. So it's quite an interesting variation.
Yeah, that's generally private equity. So private equity will come in and they'll buy a majority share of the business. Typically, sometimes they'll do minority capitalization, and but usually it's a majority. But they do want the sellers to, especially if the seller is not looking to retire, then it's a really good play because the seller can stay on for another 3 years or 5 years, however long they want. And then the equity firm usually flips it again in 5 to 7 years after it's tripled the size. And so if the seller had retained a 20% interest or a 30% interest, now he's, getting another bite at the apple, basically.
Oh,